Hi guys, my name's Kirsten, and I chose to talk and analyze about the Syrian civil war that is currently taking place. Just to let you guys know, the flag pictured on this title page is actually the original flag of Syria before the al Assad reign of government took place, and it's actually used by some current rebel groups. This slide outlines some major events that have taken place throughout the war thus far. It all started when a group of Syrian boys were arrested because they spray painted anti-governmental graffiti on school walls. This started a protest that soon turned ugly and killed 4 people by military arms. The Free Army of Syria was then formed. This was the anti-governmental group against Assad, who is the president of Syria. The Free Syrian Army then became a U.S. ally. The fighting spread quickly in 2012 to Aleppo, the second largest city of Syria, causing hundreds of people to flee. This was only the first of many, as there are millions of people and refugees fleeing Syria. So then the first gas attack by government order took place on March 19th in 2013. This killed 26 people. Because of this, the Organization of the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons removed all governmental chemical weapons. Then, in 2015, Russia, who is Assad's ally, actively entered the conflict by bombing civilian targets and was even said to bomb hospitals. 2 years later, President Trump and President Putin of Russia agreed to a limited ceasefire, and a day later, Syrian warplanes bombed Damascus. The fate of the war does not look good, as neither side is making progress. The theory behind this conflict can be analyzed on the individual level, starting with the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. He originally was never supposed to be the president, as his older brother, Basil, was killed in a car accident. He was then groomed for president by his father, Hafez. Hafez was known to have a very violent approach when dealing with conflict that carried over to his son. In 1982, under Hafez's rule, 20,000 of his people were murdered because of a rebellion in Hama, a city in Syria. The country of Syria is a unitary republic with semi-presidential style of government. However, it is actually dictated by a very authoritarian regimen. Bashar al-Assad originally spoke of reform to a more democratic state early in his presidency, but when faced with conflict, he quickly took to the violent approaches against his own people. He believes, like his father, that he must hold power and do anything to keep it. The picture in the bottom right corner is a picture of Bashar al-Assad over the Syrian flag under his rule. The Syrian civil war began with a conflict of interest regarding control over the government. People were sick of Assad's rule and demanded he step down. The Free Syrian Army's goal is advocating for a democratic reform. Assad, refusing to step down, has his own selfish interests in mind. He wants to stay in power and keep the government as it has been. This is his ultimate goal. There is much unconventional conflict taking place. This can be analyzed from both the rebels' eyes as well as Assad's. Violating international law would obviously be unconventional. This is what is taking place in Syria against many innocent people. Their human rights are being violated by the Assad government. Even people who are not fighting fear for their lives and are fleeing the country. There are 11 million Syrians on the run from their hostile environment. 470,000 people have already been killed. A major violation of human rights is the chemical weapons being used against the Syrian people by the government. Although the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons took away Syrian chemical weapons in 2014, the attacks continued and more weapons came to light. Another major violation against Syrian people is the act of Russia launching airstrikes on civilian targets and hospitals. These are innocent people that should not be targeted. Now, from Assad's government's point of view, they see the rebel groups as terrorists. He even addressed them as such in 2012, saying that he will crush terrorism with an iron fist. Assad and his allies do not see the harm in attacking his own people because he sees them as terrorists. Thank you for listening. This last slide lists the sources I used and where more information can be found. I focused on both sides of Syria in this conflict and mainly on just the Assad government as well as the Free Syrian Army. However, there are many other actors playing key roles in this conflict, and that is all outlined in the last link provided. If you are interested, I would definitely check that out. Thanks for listening.